Isn't this time of year amazing? The Olympics. Besides Simone Biles tearing it up in gymnastics and Noah Lyles going crazy on the track field, it will always be awesome to see every sport imaginable being represented in Paris. Of course, among these sports is basketball, and almost exclusively the NBA. See, last year, Noah Lyles made a statement that ruffled some feathers. He went on an interview and claimed that winners of the NBA championship weren't really championships of the quote-unquote world, as they claim to be, since the NBA is primarily in America. And when the US lost in the FIBA World Cup, it sort of seemed like he was right. Well, Noah Lyles, I want to personally thank you for saying what you said. Because of those words you said on that podium, you have single-handedly created the most entertaining US basketball Olympic team since 2012. I don't have to list the incredible roster that has been assembled. Curry, KD, LeBron, the whole 9 yards. But what I will mention and what I will say is that while the greatness of this team and the sheer talent of it is incredibly entertaining, it does reveal how strange, weird, and crazy the Olympics are. Now, even though this won't be super relevant to what I'm talking about, I do want to say that it's incredible and really interesting and funny to see a bunch of fan bases that has been at each other's throats come together and be civil. LeBron and Curry fans in particular, they both have two massive, rabid fan bases, and seeing two of the largest, most ferocious fan bases that usually feud with each other end up joining arms is so jarring. But that's what happens when you have a team as talented as the US. On paper, it's almost a guarantee that these guys will perform well and the US would run away with things, but that's not really the case. This hasn't always been the case, but in the Olympics, things always feel closer than what the traditional talent gap would have you see. Even last year's B team that the USA sent out on paper is more talented than whoever they lost to. This year they barely squeaked by South Sudan, and every year things just get a little too close for comfort. You guys know the meme where they say NBA role players always play like they're possessed. Why is that? Why does the scoring hierarchy on Team USA not reflect the consensus top ranking on these guys? What about the Olympics, or just international basketball in general, possesses these guys to shift their level of play? Stats in the Olympics always look weird. Individual scoring numbers are pretty low, and the statistical dynamic that consists in the NBA doesn't usually carry over. Well, that's for obvious reasons. There are only 40 minutes, games are called much tighter, and the team is much closer in skill level. But even aside from that, there's a lot of mysteries that the Olympics produce. To get beyond the question of why players play so weird, I want to bring up two separate examples. One is a commonplace, quote, B-tier player going insane, like Ricky Rubio back in his heydays, or Dennis Schroeder now. It's always weird seeing a guy who isn't up there with that talent in the league go out and go toe-to-toe with NBA players. The other is one directly from this year. It's LeBron, at age 39, leading the USA. Let's start with this one. LeBron leading Team USA is amazing, obviously. At age 39, months away from turning 40, he is by far and away the leader, first option and face of the team. And while it's easy to just chalk it up to LeBron's superhuman longevity, a part of me thinks different. Now, before we get into the nitty gritty, I want to mention something. There's been a lot of rankings throughout the season that order the top tier of NBA players around. And LeBron is always hovering around the 8 to 12 spot. Jason Tatum, Steph Curry, Joel Embiid, and more were all ranked ahead of him. These same players also happen to be performing significantly worse than LeBron in the Olympics. This again is another example of the preconceived hierarchy from the regular season being dismantled by FIBA basketball. And when we ask the question why, there are so many potential responses that can spur from it. Is it just as simple as LeBron being better, defying the odds once again, and dialing back the clock of father time? Or is it possible that it's just the complete wackiness of FIBA that's caused this? If either is the case, how do you bring this into the evaluation of players in the regular season and in our rankings? Now, let me start this segment by telling Braun Sexuals this. No. Much to my sadness, his performances in FIBA doesn't automatically put him over everyone else on the team. What's the reason for this? And how does that make Olympic play, FIBA play in general, so weird? In the Olympics, the norm is usually to send the best players from your nation, which usually means that there are very similar guys on the team. Guys like Ant, Tatum, Hallie, Embiid, or others. Guys who traditionally operate with the ball in their hands. And unfortunately for all of them, there's only one ball to go around. And when your team is chock full of ball-dominant primary scorers, it's not built like an actual team. The main reason the US usually struggles, especially early on, is because all of these guys are forced to find completely new roles for themselves that matches their playstyle. Well, how does that affect LeBron, you may ask? LeBron, being the guy with the highest IQ and undisputed leader, didn't really have to change that much. While the other players adjusted slightly, LeBron didn't really have to. His skill set made him the designated distributor, whether that is off-ball or on-ball, meaning he had the freedom to do as he pleased. Now, I want to elaborate. This isn't a knock on LeBron. I'm not saying Team USA just bow down and allow him to do whatever he wanted. What I am saying is actually more of a compliment. LeBron is such a smart player, a good playmaker and leader, that when you're forced to make a bunch of players shift into positions that they aren't used to playing, then there's literally no other option to play the orchestrator. It'll be idiotic to put anyone else in that role. I mentioned that talent being forced to revert into lesser roles is sort of the reason Team USA struggles despite the monumental talent gap between the teams. But when you look at other teams, they seem to have the opposite problem. Other national squads like Germany, Spain, Canada are less full of talent. While America is chilling with 10 All-NBA players, these teams are importing a lot of nameless players from around the world to suit up for them, with of course a couple NBA players, which creates the commonplace B-tier FIBA superstar meme. This team construction, as I mentioned before, creates the bizarre version of Team USA. Having players that traditionally play on the EuroLeague means a bulk of the roster is already used to FIBA rules and atmosphere. And unlike America, they have regular players instead of 10 All-NBA guys, meaning the players typically aren't as one-dimensional and are able to play outside of the first option window, meaning the team is usually a better fit and the extra layer of struggle is off their shoulders. The reason they're opposite of the US though is the lack of talent. While the US is chock full of talent but have many adjustments to make, other national teams are better adjusted but just don't have the talent. That is a perfect opportunity for a B-tier player to blossom. When the examples of FIBA superstars pop up, it's usually the same type of player. Dennis Schroeder, Ricky Rubio, Patty Mills, all are scoring-oriented spark plug guards. Having well-constructed teams opens these guys to be the first option directly, which creates a spike in their numbers. The crazy thing is, the same result happens. USA always wins. While foreign nations may make the talent gap look a little closer at times, eventually the sheer star power and the ridiculous ability that the USA has prevails. The Olympics are strange. Yes, we know. But what do we take away from them? What do we evaluate from the performances we see, and how do we compare them to the NBA? A major theme of this video has been the change in environment that FIBA brings, which complicates how we should assess the results we get from it. I'll take LeBron's performance as an example. I explained before that it doesn't automatically shift him above the guys he's outperforming due to how weird the Olympics adjustment is. So, what do we take from this? Have you guys watched Dr. Stone? Serious question. I promise this ties into my point. If you guys haven't, I really recommend you do. It's a fantastic anime. Basically, to sum it up, an unknown force turns the entire world into stone, and the super genius Senku breaks out of it. Unfortunately for him, thousands of years had passed, meaning the entire world was set back into a stone age. He eventually gets an entire group of people out of their stone state and integrated into this stone society to rebuild the world. And through the people he frees up, we begin to see traits from their past lives in modern society. I think you sort of see where I'm going. There's this character, Jen, from Dr. Stone. He was a mentalist performer before he got petrified, and we see after how that's constantly being used in the Stone Age. The reason LeBron is performing better is more so because the weirdness of FIBA directly caters to his skill set. This isn't me saying LeBron's uptick is fraudulent. It's quite the opposite, actually. LeBron's incredible intellect is useful universally. It's the reason the USA is as dominant as they are. Him taking the playmaking role, especially last game, mitigated the usual loss that the USA goes through with the adjustment period and the adjustment to the rules. Yeah, the Olympics are weird. The change in situation causes unorthodox results, which makes it hard to apply to NBA rankings. But I think you should ignore that. Disregard the NBA rankings. Yes, sure, it's fun to configure more narratives and connect them to the NBA season, but I don't think that's really an easy or linear connection to make. Much like Dr. Stone, a change in scenario brings out the traits and how they evolve under a new light. This isn't to say that these Olympics doesn't affect LeBron's rankings currently. It does, but not in a direct fashion like you guys would think. Him outplaying everyone doesn't make me go, he's the best player in the league since he's performing better than these guys, because of how the change in the environment would affect their adjustment. What it does do is make me appreciate his intelligence simply because of how it will forever make him the most impactful person on the court in almost any scenario. We theorize a lot about these players, league-wise, legacy-wise, how their traits impact and affect winning, but putting them in an unorthodox situation where they are forced to adjust really demonstrates how much these guys' abilities could really withstand. I haven't mentioned the famous, quote, B tier FIBA star, and even though they have the numbers on par with stars in the NBA, there is a clear and distinct reason why they don't perform this way always. Their ability simply doesn't have the resilience. It can't withstand a lot. When I described their team earlier, I said they are in a perfect position for their skills to blossom, meaning skilled scorers that occasionally could drop 30, guys like Dennis Schroeder and Patty, have a really well constructed team around them who are also used to the rules, and that allows them to get a great amount of shots up. That alone sparks opportunity for great play, which is the difference between the two. Olympic Team USA Basketball offers a look at how portable these guys are skill-wise, but in a way fans could only dream of. Completely different country, completely new set of rules, playing with other extremely ball-dominant players. It is the ultimate test of how portable your skills and you are as a player. That's what makes it so jarring to some fans who watch it, and while it's natural to try to slam the square block into the circle hole and use it as an overall measure to how good a player is as an entirety, if you shift focus and really look at what makes it unique, you'll see it as the ultimate test of portability.